Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. I'm sorry. I'm not even gonna try to apologize. um, I'm back. Welcome back. Today we are going to be doing, let's see, and if you've been following me for a while, you know my book is janky. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the back cover on there. We are reading chapter 11. Alrighty, chapter 11 to the Edgar Cayce Guide to Self-Healing. If you hear any purrs, any meows, that is my elderly lady, Phoebe. Hi, Phoebes. I don't know if you guys can even hear that right now. She's actually purring right now. I know, Mom. She wants to get in my lap, but she's one of those lap cats that as soon as you let her on your lap, she's kneading, and she has very, very sharp claws for her age. So let's just get right into it. Yeah, as the sound goes on, man, this book. If any of you guys have seen Fahrenheit 451, I feel like this is what I'm doing to my book. Just destroying it without memorizing it. But alrighty, let's get right into it. Okay. You good, Foo? I just dropped something on you. I'm so sorry, babe. Yeah, I dropped it in you first. I saw it. Okay. Chapter 11. The proper attitude for spiritual healing. Obviously, Edgar Cayce places a great deal of emphasis on a proper attitude in the self-healer for any effectiveness to be achieved in the restoration of physical balance. In this chapter, we would like to go into more detail on the extent of the proper attitude and also consider some of the obstacles that face the self-healer because of an improper attitude. Cayce teaches that a correct attitude plays a great role in healing. The closer the body will keep to those biblical truths and the greater dependence on the abilities latent in self through trust in spiritual things, the quicker will be the response in the physical body. For all healing, mental and material, is attuning each atom of the body, each reflex of the brain to awareness of the divine that lies within each atom, each cell. These adjustments are merely to attune the centers of the body with the coordinating forces of cerebrospinal and sympathetic systems. Thus, the body is purified or attuned so that it in itself and nature do the healing. You okay, Foo? Okay. An attitude is really our posture in perceiving the world outside of ourselves and within ourselves. If this is awry, then our behavior is tainted. Condemn not, that ye be not condemned. Find good in all. If thou canst not speak well, speak not at all. If think not at all. For thoughts are deeds. When ye act, let that gladness of purpose which may be one in all souls be what rules or is guided by him who rules. And rule not in the sense that here's a line it must be hewed to regardless of consequences or of conditions, for he is also a God of mercy, and this makes us all akin in that he who would have mercy shown must himself be merciful. Cayce placed such a high value on attitude that in one of his readings he called the person's attention to change in the whole attitude in order to effect a physical healing. When asked what causes the bad taste in the mouth and what should be done to correct it, Cayce responded, This is just as has been described for the body. Lack of glandular reaction, especially in the salivary glands, when there is a correction in the mental self according to that which you choose to think. When you begin to set your house in order, as it were, you'll have a secure knowledge for your thinking this morning or tomorrow at a special time. This will change the whole attitude in respect to the functioning of the organs in the body. Attitude then is correcting the mental self, choosing to think in accordance with reality and the requirements of the Creator. Do not find fault, for when thou findest fault in thy relationships with others, the greater fault is within thee. But if the heart and mind forgive those who despitefully use thee, those that speak evil in diverse places, those that find fault with others will find fault in themselves, for they are writing their own record, and they must meet every one that which they have said about another. For so is the image, the soul of the Creator in each body. And when ye speak evil of or unkindly to thy brother, thou hast done it unto thy God. I'm sorry. I'm trying to make sure my elderly lady doesn't hit the camera stand. Can you back up for me, Foo? Phoebe? I'm not kicking you away, girl. Phoebe. You're gonna knock it. I feel it coming. The self-healer attempts to bring about a harmony within himself so that body, spirit, and mind cooperate one with another. An attitude that is selfish, doubting, fearful, and even cynical is an attitude that aborts rather than promotes healing. All this should be obvious at this point to those of our readers who have caught the deep spirituality and sense of Christianity that is unique to Cayce. Knowledge is well and understanding is good, but to use these in a manner in which the own ego is to be exalted makes for confusion to those who would seek to know their place in the activities of the realms of opportunity that is given in the present. It is well to be humble, and every soul should learn the lesson of being humble, but knows in whom as well as in what ye believe. Know the author of what ye would present to thy fellow man in regard to their preparations for their living, their experiencing the associations with their fellow man. For the body finds self a physical being, with the body physical, a body mental, and the hopes for, yes, the vision of the soul. Then choose thou that which is thy ideal. Know there is set before thee today good and evil, life and death. This is the natural state of man, and as a seeking soul encased in matter, but with the mind, with the will that is internal and is godlike. Study, yes, give expression, yes, but know there are others who are also an expression of good in the earth besides self. An insight into a change in attitude or acceptance of ills or imbalance can be found in this reading on sacrifice. It must be remembered that Cayce is not asking the self-healer to live with disease and to be passive in the face of his own physical imbalance. That is not the sacrifice or proper attitude he requires. Rather, it is the sacrifice of ego and the elimination of those insane jealousies and petty rivalries that are brought on by pride and arrogance. He is calling for adherence to an ideal, surrender of the ego in the cause of the entity's total growth. Each should understand that sacrifice does not necessarily mean giving up, rather a glorifying of a definite purpose for an ideal, for a love, rather than refraining from this or that. The choice must be made as to the purposefulness for which the activity is to be, and in keeping with what has been presented, that the bodies are the temples of the living God. For when duty, love, and reason are one, then such consciousness approaches near that of universal love. The self-healer must have the proper attitude towards self and towards his fellow man. He cannot find fault, but rather must ensure that the divine healer shines forth through every act, every thought of the body-mind. For as Cayce tells us, thoughts are deeds, and these thoughts may become miracles or crimes. Few individual souls really enjoy their own companionship, not merely because they love themselves the less or that they despise themselves the more, but their thoughts and things and emotions of the body are seldom in accord with the other, or their unconscious individuality and their conscious personality don't reflect the same shadow in the mirror of life. With this line, as one sees the manifestations of the acts of man in the earth, men claiming God as the Father, the Christ as the elder brother, the patriarchs as teachers and directors, and yet find fault with someone less gifted with the light of his own love, suppose for the moment that God looked upon thine own heart as thou hast oft looked upon thine brother's life. Oblivion incomparable incomparable to the mind, even of man, even of space or time. We see now that attitude for Cayce is really alignment or balance. It is holding the mind in proper perspective so that we do not condemn self or others for that which is past, that which cannot be changed. For to so, I told you guys this old timey talk. For to so behave is to impede the healing process and to heap reproach on the self. The proper attitude demands that we find less fault with others and thereby give them the example of an entity on course with the Creator. There can be no healing of self or others if our mind is filled with resentments and anger. That is the first thing we must attend to as self-healers. What is there within me that is blocking my contact with the creative energy? Cayce is insistent on this fact. There must first be then that correct attitude toward the creative energies. Call it spiritualism, divine scientist, God, Christ, or whatever name. Know that self can be and is by heritage a part of that first cause. Remember, no man is bigger than that which makes him lose his temper. He that is able to control his own temper for his own purposes is greater than he that may even take 7 cities. He that may even take 7 cities. Not that thine experience may be entirely different from that of thine next door neighbor, but find not fault in thine friend nor in thine enemy, for hath not he the Father allowed the tares and the wheat to grow up together? Be not as one that would tell the Father the Creator as to whom the tares are, or as to when such a tare would be rooted up. Be thou rather found in the way of blooming, of bringing forth fruit worthy of a son that has been endowed with the privileges of manifesting the Spirit that he has shed abroad in the earth through the gift to the world of the babe in Bethlehem. I'm so sorry. It's really these old-timey words. My mom would be disappointed in me because my mom and I used to read a lot of Shakespeare when I was a kid. So for me now to, it is 23. It is 2023. I'll be 30 this year. So for me not to be able to read comfortably this old-timey talk, she'd be so disappointed. Not like really disappointed, but she'd find it funny. What Cayce is asking for from the self-healer especially is what he called loving indifference. This is the proper attitude for the self-healer, and this is the path that brings him in touch with the power of healing. Then only in loving indifference may the condition be met. What say ye is loving indifference? Acting as if it had not been, disregarding as if it were not. Not animosity, not anger. Loving forgiveness is really what Cayce is calling for. This forgiveness is a proper prerequisite for healing, since it mirrors the divine to the self and to those around us. If you forgive not those who have in any manner caused the disturbance or distress, how may ye expect thy heavenly Father to forgive you of thy trespasses or thy shortcomings? The entity is inclined toward benevolence, inclined to forgive and yet not forget too easily. Oft the entity makes promises to self, and because of attributes of others never quite meets the obligation in self. All will remember how he said as he took the little child, unless ye become as a little child, ye shall in no wise enter in. Unless you become as open-minded, unless you can get mad and fight and then forgive and forget, for it is the nature of man to fight while it is the nature of God to forgive. While conditions may appear as hopeless in the present, know there is forgiveness. Even as the body-mind may forgive others, so may the body here be forgiven. So it may soak through those promises of the all creative forces for help, yes, help in a physical as well as in a mental matter. Cayce teaches us that it really doesn't matter what we may claim to believe. What is really important is what type of attitude we develop as a result of our beliefs. The world doesn't care whether you believe the whale swallowed Jonah or whether Noah was in the ark a whole year or 40 days. What is an individual's belief in those things that have come into his life, that have changed his attitude toward his fellow man or towards his God? This is what is really important. Self-confidence and poise are essential to the self-healer, and these come from the correct attitude. In fact, confidence can only result from the knowledge that you have a definite purpose as a self-healer, and that it doesn't really matter what you do for a living as long as your attitude reflects your companionship with the divine energy. If you are sincerely fulfilling a need in your own life and for your fellow man, and performing your life's duties to be the best of your abilities, you cannot be other than confident. In the physical world, opposite electromagnetic currents attract. In the higher vibrational world of spirit, the opposite is true. The electrical patterns of our thoughts are, when activated, attracted to the same thoughts in others. They are contagious, as it were. So if we have doubts about ourselves and our healing abilities, it follows that others will catch this and act accordingly. The proper attitude means that we speak kindly of others also. When one finds fault with another, it seems it is done to make oneself right. Cayce will have none of this in the self-healer. To get a better surety in self as to its spiritual outlook, leave off the finding of faults, and so many faults will not be found with you. Leave off speaking unkindly. If it is impossible to say nice things about a person, keep silent, even though what you say may be true. Remember, there's so much good in the worst of us that it doesn't behoove the best of us to speak unkindly of any of the rest of us. I'm sorry, Foo. I don't have on pants. And you cannot get in my lap, baby. You're going to cut me. You're going to scratch me so deeply. Look at that. You just got your nails stuck. I gotta get her nails clipped. Ooh. Speaking of, nail just got me. Ow. Really hurt. The self-healer is a happy person, one who has the proper mental attitude born of his beliefs and his ideals. Cayce tells us then, but find self not in the gratifying for the moment, nor in appetites. Not that anyone is to become goody-goody, but good for something, that all may see, may know that there is the purpose there is, that in which God has not chosen unwisely in giving this entity and its companion such a soul for development in this experience. Let it rather be said that indeed they have realized their privilege, their opportunity to conduct their own lives, that they may be an example for this entity, this soul. Then let the mental attitude be kept in that way of expecting and the ability to help others. Happiness is a state of mind attained by giving same to others. As we find then, we would give that first in making corrections. There must be a change of attitude towards self, those about self, and the conditions which the body physically and mentally has found and does find around self. Resentments, animosities, petty jealousies, and the like must be eliminated as much as practical and possible if there will be the better physical force, the better mental and physical reaction. I wish I could pull this camera down like comfortably. It's on my phone. And this cat is in such an awkward position with her neck. If you are a cat owner, you know cats get into really weird positions. And like her neck is like, but she's purring. Alright. Attitude is important. Attitude is important in the life of the self-healer, because attitude is also the root of many psychosomatic diseases and illnesses. We need the proper attitude not only to contact the divine energy, but also to maintain our own health. The fact that stress, tension, or anger would often cause stomach ulcers, gallbladder attacks, or heart palpitations was well known years before the term psychosomatic illness was introduced to the world. The Cayce readings gave support to the reality of psychosomatic diseases, beginning with Cayce's very first readings on himself over 70 years ago. His own throat paralysis and inability to speak is really what pushed him into giving psychic readings for himself and later on for those that asked him. It is interesting to note that he often described the illnesses of others as psychosomatic in nature that is as a physical disorder arising from an emotional or mental root, often with its causes stretching into past life experiences. In the readings, we catch the importance of attitude and how an improper attitude can wreck a person's health. He told people that a person could not hold hatred and anger toward his fellow man without eventually coming down with heart, stomach, and or liver problems. To be sure, the attitudes often influence the physical conditions of the body. No one can hate his neighbor and not have stomach or liver trouble. One cannot be jealous and allow anger of same and not have upset digestion or heart disorder. When the body becomes so self-satisfied, so self-centered as to renounce, refuse, not change its attitude, so long as there are hate, malice, injustice, those things which produce hate, which produce jealousies, which are at a variance to patience, long-suffering, brotherly love, kindness, gentleness, there cannot be a healing of this body. What would it be healed? What would it be healed for? That it might gratify its own physical desires and appetites, that it might add to its own selfishness. Selfishness then is the improper attitude for healing. And from selfishness comes hate and anger, which can really hurt the balance of the entity. You could take a bad cold from getting mad. You could take a bad cold from cursing out someone else, even if it's your wife. Anger, says Cayce, is a poison to the system, and every self-healer must pay close attention to that teaching. To be sure, attitudes often influence the physical conditions of the body. Neither of these disorders is present here, and yet those attitudes have much to do with accumulations which have become gradually tendencies toward arthritic reactions. Arthritic reactions. We all know that from time to time we let off steam and burst into anger for whatever reason. A self-healer must not allow himself to do this merely for the sake of his own health and the purity of his own conduit with the divine energy. Aggravation of mental forces and a distraughtness often come, producing headaches, nervousness, and a continual reaction throughout the hypogastric system. This causes nausea and an overproduction of hydrochloric acid in the stomach itself. Such reactions should be a warning to every human being. Anger is a certain poison to the system. Anger can destroy the brain as well as any disease, for it itself is a disease of the mind. What the self-healer must do is consciously guard his feelings so that they do not result in destroying any balance in his system. An attitude of internal activity or holding that desires as needed will assist in the psychopathic effect had upon the nerves of the system, and especially through the ilium plexus. ILEU, M as in Mary, dash PLEXUS. Know what it is to be done, then just consciously watch it act. There is not inflammation in this appendix. There is the caecum, CAECUM, where this impaction occurs. What Cayce wants is that we rid ourselves of all ill feelings towards ourselves and towards others. That positions us to be effective as a healer. The attitudes then should be such that there is no animosity, no feeling of resentment, but a forgiving, loving expression towards all about the body in every form and manner. For there have arisen acute conditions not only from physical reactions, but mental conditions that have been as resentments which have built into mental forces of the body. These are indicated in the reacting with the physical effects upon organ centers, now finding reflexes in various portions of the body. Less animosities, holding grudges, or thoughts which make the entity speak unkindly of others. These destructive attitudes bring on pent-up feeling and reflect or find expression in irritations. We know then that the wrong attitude can make us sick and can result in an ineffective healing. Cayce gives the following pieces of advice that self-healers would do well to heed. Never take food, meat, or drink when worried in mind, physically tired, or mad. Never think that either worry or madness may be drowned in drink or in overfeeding the stomach, for these bring distresses to the body. For just as hate and animosity and hard sayings create poisons in the body, so do they weaken and wreck the mind of those who indulge in same. And then they begin to wonder why this or that has befallen me. Do not belittle, do not hate, for hate creates as does love, and brings turmoils and strifes. Among the daughters of Zerubbabel, gonna go with that, Zerubbabel, the entity swore vengeance, and he who swears vengeance pays, even to the last farthing. Remember, vengeance belongeth to the Lord and not to an individual human. For individuals in the earth are prone to allow selfishness to control. Then let not the green-eyed monster jealousy be at the root of thy troubles. As a self-healer, we will meet many people throughout the day who may cause us grief or pain, but we cannot let these impinge on our spiritual territory. We must stick to our ideals. It is necessary to be sure that there be coordinating of ideals and ideal relationships with those whom the body may contact day by day. But to let little differences, little animosities, little hurts interfere with the real ideal and purpose of an entity or soul is to go backward rather than onward with those abilities which the entity possesses to create for others what will be helpful and hopeful in their experience. How can we as self-healers heal ourselves of our resentments? It is easy enough to hear Cayce tell us not to hold grudges, but how is someone supposed to sweep those thoughts away? It is a fact that removing something without replacing it with something else does create a void. What we should do then is concentrate not so much on getting rid of what we don't want, but on displacing it by taking on the virtues and characteristics which we do want. Cayce gives us some help here by providing a good solution. Watch the manner in which ye treat others, for this is the way ye are treating thy Maker. Keep this in mind, and resentments will not be so much a part of thy conclusions. It is not thyself by nature, but conclusions. Much has been taught by Cayce on consistency and persistency, so much so that he actually did a treatise just on that subject. The self-healer who is trying to heal his own attitude must realize that Cayce applied the principle of consistency and persistency to every facet of living. Here is one allusion by Cayce to internal scars that improper attitudes create. Let the scars be removed from thy own mental and spiritual self. Turn to those things of making application of the fruits of the spirit of truth, love, putting away those little tendencies for being catty at times, or being selfish, or expressing jealousy and such. Let the mind be in thee as was in him who is the way, the truth, and the light, and he will make the light of love so shine through thy countenance that few, if any, will ever see the scars made by self-indulgence and other experiences. What Cayce is striving to teach the self-healer is an attitude that is not just complacent with the self, but is rather driven to appreciate all that God has already accomplished in the life of the entity. In whatsoever state one finds oneself, make self-content, not satisfied, but content. Most of all, pray. Let the mental attitude be considered first and foremost. Do not promise thyself, nor thy God, nor thy neighbor that you do not fulfill. Developing the proper attitude then is really the essence of self-healing that is internal. Internal healing, making certain that the powers of mind, soul, and heart are geared towards the creative influence, can only come through a concerted effort. It does little good for us. It does little good. I've said it before. I really think this is not to come at the people that published it, but they didn't really. It literally says FOE. It does little good for us to learn techniques and shortcuts and natural medications if within our heart there is a whited sepulchre. Yep. sepulchre. The self must be balanced before the self can bring about a restoration of health to any entity. For to hold grudges, to hold malice, to hold those things that create or bring contention only builds the barrier to prevent thy own inner self enjoying peace and contentment. What we are dealing with is the law of nature, that goodness can only issue forth from goodness, that like begets like, harmony begets harmony, and balance begets balance. As the Spirit of God once moved to bring peace and harmony out of chaos in the creation, so must the Spirit move over the earth and magnify itself in the hearts, minds, and souls of men to bring peace, harmony, and understanding, that they may dwell together in a way that will bring that peace, that harmony that can only come with all having the one ideal. This is the whole law. This is the whole answer to the world, to each and every soul. That is the answer to the world conditions as they exist today. As we have already mentioned, the state of the mind influences the state of the body. This is what psychosomatic is all about. How many times have we thought ourselves sick, made ourselves sick by fuming and fussing? The self-healer will realize that he can initiate the healing process of his body through his own mental stability. Not only does the holding of ill thoughts within the mind get in the way of the self-healer's inner peace, but he also does great damage to his body, for body, mind, and spirit, according to Cayce, are all one. Resentments naturally create within the system those secretions that are hard upon any circulation, and especially where there is disturbance with the spleen, the pancreas, and a portion of the liver. Oh no, food, please don't. I'm sorry, baby. I got a movie. I'm sorry. You was about to knock it over. I saw it. You did. No. Nope. You're too excited. I'm sorry, baby. Some people think that they have to go away and take a cure for their minds so that prior to utilizing their self-healing powers, they may be fit and ready. Cayce looks at it this way. To be sure, unless there is determination within self to rid self of the appetites and desires builded in the will forces of the system that have been to such an extent as to produce physical reactions, then the cure may not be accomplished even in an institution without the will and self of this to be so. But as we find, as we have indicated, the institutional treatments are necessary with the determination within self, and it will be easier, more desirable for the body to go through the institutional treatments. Do that then, relying upon those things that have been pointed out, that the basis of all spiritual awakening, the promise of the better and closer associations with the divine, are within self. In conclusion, then, a proper mental attitude is developed by the person himself, and without the proper mental attitude, self-healing is nigh unto impossible. The cause of the body's ailments often are traceable to the exaggerations of the mind. How may it all be brought to a proper solution? Cayce tells us, just as has been given, showing mercy, showing grace, peace, long-suffering, brotherly love, kindness, even under the most trying circumstances. For what is the gain if we love only those who love thee? But to bring hope, cheer, and joy, yea, to bring a smile again to those whose faces and hearts are bathed in tears and woe. This is but making that divine love shine in thine own soul. Don't start healing without healing the self. Treat yourself with the kindness and love you deserve, and go out of the self daring to bring to others the riches that God has stored within your soul. Here is Cayce's remedy for healing the attitude. If ye would have friends, be friendly. If ye would have others be kind to thee, be kind to them. If ye would know thy Maker, then in gentleness of heart and in sureness of purpose, live each day that ye may look to him and say, Thy will, O God, be done in me, not my will, but thy will. Let each strive harder Let each strive harder to be the channel so that those who seek in his name may not be disappointed in the manifestations of his love in their lives, which might occur by the actions of those who have become negligent or not in complete harmony with these efforts. Yet this should not cause those who are striving to lose patience, confidence, or hope in their associates or in what is being accomplished, for good is being built in the lives and hearts of all who are striving, trying, aiming, making an effort in this direction. Then be up and doing with all thy might, and that there may be shown fruits worthy of acceptance in his name. Everyone who strives gains in this manner in which the effort is put forth. Remember, in his name anything may be accomplished that is in accord with his law. Hence his will be done in the manner that is in keeping with what he would have done in the present period. Be faithful in that which is in keeping with his world will come. Okay. That was chapter 11. I am so silly. I had to actually catch myself while I was reading. I'm so silly. As you all know, I have a little lady, and she's 11 months and a few weeks, and we have been watching Dragon Tales, which is on Amazon Prime if any millennials such as myself want to go back and watch it with their kids. And when I got to the part it says with all thy might, I'm so silly. I had to really catch myself. I was thinking of the Dragon Tales song. Well, Dragon Tales part. I wish with all my might to fly with dragons and land apart. Goodness gracious. Alright, so join me next time on chapter 12. I am so happy to be back and to be joining you guys in the new year. In the new, well, technically the new Gregorian calendar year. But I love you guys. Please be well. Please be happy. I'll say this. Don't make resolutions if you're not going to keep them. Make realistic ones. I'll definitely share one of my resolutions with you. I really want to stop the negative self-talk that I have about myself. I wouldn't say that I have self-esteem issues, because I don't think well, let me say it like this. I don't think I'm ugly. I don't think there's anything wrong with me. I don't think I'm in everybody's top 10 list, but that's fine. You're not supposed to be in everybody's top 10 list. But I do have a real issue with negative self-talk. I was talking to my boyfriend about it, and that's one thing I really do want to strive for. I was bullied horrendously from kindergarten all the way through college, actually, which is sad to admit, but it's the truth. And I just took that with me because that was what I believed. I believed all the things that I said about myself. So I'm trying my hardest to catch I'm actually 4 or 5 days into the new year. I'm doing pretty well with catching myself. Like, if I do say something negative, I'll definitely counteract it with positive self-talk, self-affirmations. But they're still there. It's I'll be 30 this year, so going 29 years of just doubting yourself. Well, let's not count being a baby and a kid, but from the age of 5 to 29, that's 24 years. 24 years of just negative self-talk about yourself. It's hard to just flip that switch. Some people can do it. Not me, but make realistic resolutions. Ones that are day by day gradual improvements on yourself. So you can become your highest version and be a self-healer. Be a blessing to someone else. I don't want to ramble too much. I love you guys. See you.